back to my channel. My name is Shauna Kay, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about anger. Righteous anger. Anger that is permitted if you're a Christian or someone who is spiritual. There is good anger. Anger itself is not a sin, if you want to be biblical. It's the action that one might do when they're angry. Jesus was angry several times. Like, read the Old Testament and you see a grouchy ass God. He was angry. It's like, talk about buyer's remorse. He was angry with the creation that he had and did. And he was like, dude, I'm gonna wipe you guys out and just start over because this was a flop. He was an angry God. And then come to the New Testament and God's like, chill. And he's like, love, kumbaya, here's my son, he's gonna die on the cross for you, and then we're gonna just get there together, and the rest of your life and this life of this creation before I come back and destroy it all again one last time, all you're asked to do is love and forgive and not be arrogant, because you have a fucking log in your eye, not a speck, my friend. And here we are. Pretty simple, right? He's definitely not the same God, but he has angry tendencies. So that got me thinking. Righteous anger is a common two-word phrase that I have read throughout much of scripture and other things. So being angry is okay, but yet being angry is frowned upon. A lot of people, especially for us women, when we get angry, we're called bitchy, we're called moody, crazy. We're not allowed to be angry. And even for men, toxic masculinity is becoming a thing, because angry men, immediately toxic. Well, men are already men. They have that arrogant, well, that's true, but that just slipped out. They have that aggressive looking, austere physique that could be like angry, I guess. You know what I mean? It's like intimidating, right? And sometimes you can get the intimidating confused with angry, and then times actual anger from a guy that's big and bulky and like rugged, then that anger looks really scary. It looks like masculine anger, right? That's literally where it came from. So I think that's not always fair. And so I've been thinking and studying on righteous anger for the past week. And I think that what we need to learn as a collective is how to get angry the right way. How to say what we really need to say the right way. We can be angry and be justified in our anger, and it doesn't even have to be a justification. Like, there are some things that annoy me, that make me angry, that offend me, and it's not like I shouldn't be. If anything, I've had to learn to defend myself. I've had to learn to get angry for myself in my defense, because people will walk on me, they'll use me. I'm a people pleaser by nature. So I've had a lot of people who've taken advantage of that. And throughout my life, hypocrisy has been the one thing that makes me angry the quickest, because I will treat people a certain way. I will talk to people a certain way. And I expect them to be able to give me the same respect and care that I give for them, to them. And so many don't. They, in my eyes, are a hypocrite, because they expect to be treated good, but yet they don't do the same for others. That is literally my pet peeve. If I have any pet peeves, it's that one. I do not like hypocritical people. And top that with religious hypocritical people, because then they become an arrogant hypocritical person who has, one way for themselves, but yet their outward look is a different way. They're a hypocrite, and it drives me insane. And I have so many in my life that I've had to learn, man, I need to fucking shut my mouth. I have said way too much and I see where I shouldn't have. I have given way too much of myself, and I'm fucking pissed off. I am angry. And many people will say, no, don't wallow in that. That's bad. And I'm like, you know what? If I didn't, then I would be a pushover, and I would have people take advantage of me, and I would have people continue to treat me a certain way. So righteous anger is needed, and I've had to learn to take my anger and make it righteous anger. And these are the things I do that really help to give that significant difference. When I'm angry, I stop and I ask myself why. It's a very common first thing to do, which I think is important for us. Why am I angry? I'm angry because, you know, I told someone in confidence that something about my kid, and they went ahead and told someone else, and that came back and made a shit pile mess in my family with emotional issues, and I've been up late talking. So that's why I'm angry. And that's the first thing I do. And then I ask myself, what would make it better? And this is really important, like seriously, what would make it better? What would make it better is if this person respected what I said. If they didn't go ahead and twist it and use it to gossip, or use it in a mean way or a hurtful way. And sometimes at that point, the third thing you would do is communicate to that person, laying it out, kind of what made you angry, offended you, what you think for you would have been done differently. Or you would ask yourself, what would I have done for them if the roles were reversed? And sometimes, depending on that thing that you're mad about, maybe you have done that same thing. And then that's when you would check yourself and realize, okay, hold back. I do the same thing too. And then you would kind of calm down a bit. You'd still be angry, but it wouldn't be like a rage or an unhealthy, unrighteous anger. You would take it and do some self-reflecting at that point. But if it isn't something, oftentimes for me, it's nothing I would do to people. And so that's when I feel like, okay, I have to talk it out, write it out. And that doesn't mean I send it to them, but I write it out as if I'm talking to them. And then I sit on it for like a week, because you have no idea how time can help your mindset. And then you go back and you kind of edit it and you realize, okay, that was too harsh. And you go from there. But the initial venting to yourself and playing out the scenario is so important to do. And that changes your anger. And if you notice, it changes the whole perspective of your anger, which is what you need. Because oftentimes if you don't do that, your anger becomes something that's an outburst, that when you do something, an action happens at that point, which are oftentimes irreversible. So your goal, if you're trying to have righteous anger, is to make sure the action comes last, after you've reasoned with it. And then that action can be sending that email, calling that person, doing that thing that needs to be done to make it better. So what you're angry about gets addressed. Because nothing's worse than just putting a Band-Aid on it and leaving it, because then bitterness will grow, anger will get worse, things will not heal. You have to heal it. You have to care for the wound. Anger is like an open sore, an open wound that needs care. It needs herbals. It needs oils. It needs some antioxidants. It needs some disinfecting things. You need to care for it, which is those things that I mentioned. And then once you heal it, during that process, it's already beginning to heal. And then once you get to the action of putting a Band-Aid on it, you've already cleaned the wound. You've already cared for the initial blast of anger, the open wound, the bullet hole. You've already cared for that shock to your system. And now you're able to kind of seal it, put the Band-Aid on it, wrap it up, but with some more composure. And if we could start to handle our anger that way, we would practice righteous anger. And it could be very different scenarios. So we get angry about all kinds of different things. So really you have to customize it to what you're angry about. But when Jesus went to his temple and people were like selling shit and doing all kinds of unbiblical, ungodly shit in his temple, he got mad, right? He ripped tables up and did this and did that. And that's definitely, I don't think Jesus was stepping back and going, why are they doing this? Should I get mad? Do I have what I do? God is God. So in that scenario, they didn't think they were doing anything wrong. That's how those people's mindsets were. They kind of needed that disruption and reality check. And sometimes that needs to happen. Sometimes they're not going to change. They're not going to see how they hurt you, why they made you angry. And so in those kind of situations, it's not always that case, but it can be. And that's the moments like when Jesus made a scene and flipped over tables. That was an action that had to be done in order to take care of yourself. That symbolizes, okay, God made a scene. Now it's time for us to do the same. Cut ties, disown. It's not like we're holding on to anger or grudge holding. We literally have to cut out the toxicity. And we have to take that kind of drastic action. That's righteous, not unrighteous. It's not just being a jerk or not being sensitive or just being an angry bitch. You're actually taking action to protect yourself in that case. And eventually you'll learn when those moments are going to happen, because you'll talk through these things and do those practices that I mentioned. And when you get angry, you'll be able to really hold composure. And that is what I've been practicing more than anything this week. And it's going to take some more practice. But I think I nailed down the steps to do. And then why God would get angry, because he, at that ultimate point, that had to be done. People were not going to figure it out. They were not open. They didn't see what they were doing wrong. And you're going to have people in your life that are just like that. They're so arrogant. They're so blinded by their own pity party. They won't see what they're doing to other people. They won't see their hypocrisy. And then you have to kind of take action. That doesn't mean you're holding on to hatred and unforgiveness. You're protecting yourself and your energy. Flip over tables. Make a scene, woman. Do what you have to do to put yourself first in your relationship with God and your life, to keep the chaos out of it. There's some really nasty, shitty, negative energies out there. And that should be our focus as ones who are trying to be enlightened and trying to grow and have an amazing manifested life of goodness. You gotta protect your energy. You gotta protect your energies. Really important. Hopefully this helps. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video.